All right, cool. So I'm here with Damon today, and you're in Phoenix?
Yep.
Arizona, cool. All right, so basically he's running a remodel company and a painting company. Been doing this, well, I'll let you say a little bit, but how long you been doing it for, and when did you start your partnership?
We got into the partnership, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and been doing this business for about 20. Got into my business partner's been doing it for about 28, 29 years, something like that, on the painting side.
Yeah, okay. So you've been doing the remodel side of things for about 20 years.
Yep.
Painting, your business partner's been doing painting for about 20 years. And then what was it that made you guys decide to join forces 4 or 5 years ago?
I was flipping houses, and he was helping me paint on some of these houses. And then it got to a point where he was painting all of the houses I was remodeling. And then I don't know what happened, but somehow we started flipping houses together. And between the two of us, we just seemed to get along really, really well, and said, hey, let's just take the painting side to another level. So the market here kind of slowed down with the flips and things like that, and the margins became really small. And we had so many contractors that were looking for painting work. It just made sense to jump into the painting side and kind of leave the flipping and the remodeling stuff behind us at that time.
Nice, man. And so I'm just curious because I think a lot of people look at partnerships and want to do partnerships, especially just like I think I've shared a lot about my partners and
Sure.
partnerships and stuff, but it's also a pretty challenging thing. I don't know how many people have followed me long enough to know that I've failed at a ton of partnerships too.
Yeah.
What any lessons you kind of learned about like going into business? Obviously it's worked for you, which is great.
Right.
Anything you kind of learned along the way that was challenging?
There's a lot of challenges. Your partner has to be on the same page with you, and you got to have the same goals, all the same the same drive, that kind of stuff, put into place. But for us, we kind of had the same vision, so that was the nice part about it. But partnerships can go either way, and they can go sour really quick. I've had partners in the past with other businesses that didn't go real well. So the biggest thing was making sure we're both on the same page.
So what is that for you guys? Like, what's the shared vision? What are you guys trying to do?
Well, we're trying to, we've always been hands-on with this business, so we understand it from top to bottom, inside and out. And so we're kind of trying to pull ourselves away from it, versus in the field every day, working 60 plus hours a week, working till 10 o'clock at night. We've done all those. We've camped out in houses before, vacant houses that we were working on. And now it's just, we don't want to do that anymore. We're getting up there in age that this isn't something we want to do when we're 60 years old, is swinging hammers and crawling up on roofs. So, but that, and it just kind of slowed down a little bit. We were doing so many. I think at one time we were doing close to 12 houses a week, and it's kind of nice to step back and not have to do that. And we have people doing that now for us. So we can spend the time to ramp up the business side of it and slow down on the physical aspect of doing the work. You know what I mean?
When you say you're doing 12 houses a week, you mean 12 paint jobs a week, or what are you referring to there?
Yeah. Him and I were when we first started, it was just him and I. We were doing close to 12 a week, just him and I. And it was too much. We were literally starting at one job, leaving that one midday to start another one. I was masking off another one, coming back to the next one the next day, and just juggling these houses. And we just felt that our customer service was going down. We felt it was too much work. We were just outpowered, but we were in a situation where we couldn't find any help. So at the pace we were going, most people just didn't want to go with that pace. So that, I think, scared a lot of people. So slowing down from that now and being able to step back and kind of regroup and plan a little bit more and run the number side more and we're still not 100% where we need to be with our numbers at certain aspects, but just slowing down a little bit from doing all the physical work and driving all over the valley and doing that kind of stuff.
So just for a point of reference, man, what's been like revenue and growth look like for your company over the last few years?
It varies. I mean, we're in a situation where here in the valley with Phoenix area, the Phoenix metro area, there's a huge amount of competition, and there's a huge amount of investors and property managers and that kind of stuff. So we take on a little bit of everything. We take on property managers because we've worked with them for so many years. Not so much investors, but more contractors that use us. But what's nice about most of them, we set our own prices and our own budgets. They don't dictate our pricing for us. So
Okay.
that made a huge difference. So when we first started out, we were taking whatever number they were throwing at us. So now that we've started to slow down in that and kind of dictate where we're at with our numbers based on our license and things like that, our numbers have gone up, and we're anywhere from 20 to 35, 38% profit on what we're doing. So we're doing better on that, but there's always room to improve for sure.
And so have you guys gotten yourselves pretty much off the job sites at this point? Are you having other people do everything, or are you still getting some of the work done yourselves, or where are you at with that?
I've stepped away from most of it myself. My business partner, he just loves being hands-on. But he usually makes sure that everybody's at the job sites where they need to be, paint's being delivered, supplies are being taken care of. And then I line up the jobs. I try to work from home more than anything else now, but I'll still make my rounds when I need to. But we still are on the job sites, you know, for the most part. Not full time, but we're still there.
Cool. And it sounds like you're on the job site, but more in like a production manager standpoint.
Yeah,
a lot of labor.
it's more like I kind of act as the production manager, the project manager on most of my stuff, just because we've had such bad experiences in the past with trying to find the right people, what they can do. You can always find a painter, but the painter can't do drywall, or you find a drywaller, but he can't do texture. You know, so you always have these little things. So if I feel like if I'm not there, it's not getting done the right way. So if I get to the job site and I know what needs to be done, I have a better way to dictate and kind of explain to the crews what they need to do or whatever. And there's times that they can't do it, so I have to jump in and do little things here and then. I don't mind that. I try to stay involved as much as I can.
Yeah, and I think it's good to actually grow slow and not try to grow too fast. A lot of times when I see people try to make too big of drastic moves too fast, things blow up and you end up having to be like, okay, let's try this again. And you kind of go through that whole process. But let's just go back to a couple of things we talked about before we got on here. So one was, early on when you were starting out, you said you were doing a lot of door-to-door, and then you slowly got more and more reviews. So you just want to say a little bit about like what door-to-door did for you and how you were able to transition to a point where you didn't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, so door-to-door was always good for us. And I have a yard sign somewhere back here, but whenever we did a job, we always put out our yard sign, and that always drew people that we didn't even hit door-to-door. But we didn't do door-to-door we started out doing small subdivisions, just hammering the subdivisions. And we just didn't see results with that. We saw more results doing a block at a time. And it was typically when we would land a job. So if we did a job on a block, we'd put our sign out and then do door-to-door on that block. And then people could see that we were working on that house when they left their driveway and left their house and stuff. And we felt that always gave us the better edge on getting leads and things like that. But what happened was Angie's List for us at that time just kicked off, and we ended up doing like 5-star reviews, and we have an A+ rating. So the rating system on Angie's List, it just flocked people to us. So that is such a difficult thing to do. It's very difficult to work Angie's List if you're a new painter, and a lot of people don't understand that, and it's very expensive to do. But if you've been on there for as much time as we have and you have the reviews and stuff, you're bound to get a ton of calls. But in slow times, we always went door to door. Our summers here are slower for exteriors. We do a lot more interiors. So Angie's List fills those voids. We do, I would say in the summertime, probably 90% of our jobs are all interior. We don't get into exteriors till after winter. And then Angie's List seems to die down. And then that's when our sign out front, and we have contractors we work with too. So that helps us out.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I know it gets like a little hot to be painting outside in the summer there. So, dude, I'm curious, how's Angie's List doing now compared to 5 years ago for you?
It's probably about the same. The prices have gone up quite a bit on it. It seems like we always go through a sales manager with Angie's List. We had a guy for a few years that was really good, and it just seemed like the turnover rate's a little high. But we've noticed anymore, you got to run Angie's List like a business. And it takes so much time to run it because you're always putting up new ads or new promotions or updating pictures. And the problem that we struggle with Angie's List is the reviews. We paint somebody's house, we have them, put up a review. They don't always do it. We send them the link. They don't always do it. Even though they're happy, it's getting people to leave reviews. And that, if you don't have the reviews on there, you won't get jobs. And
that's the tough thing, man, is a lot of people were doing really, really well in Angie's List 5 or 6 years ago, which then I think attracted a lot of new businesses to try and join Angie's List. But when you join, and if I'm a homeowner and I'm going to hire off of Angie's List, I'm looking at 5 companies and 3 of them have 100 reviews and 2 of them have no reviews. Those 2 companies, no reviews, are getting no reviews, and you need to be an Angie's List member to leave a review for a painting company. And so then I'm over here like trying to get my customers who aren't on Angie's List to join Angie's List to leave me a review. and it kind of makes it really tough to get that going. And this isn't the only one. Yelp is also similar to that, where it really takes a lot of effort to build that profile up. Home Advisor is similar as well. Home Advisor is really, it's crazy how often I see a post on Home Advisor somewhere. Someone's like, hey, I just had a bad experience with the Home Advisor. And then there's 40 comments of people like, yeah, it's a scam. It's a scam. I don't think Home Advisor is a scam. I think very few people do really well on it, but it's because they've got a very well-built profile, tons of reviews, high ratings, and they work it like a business, just like you're talking about with Angie's List. So
when we started out with Angie's List, we took every job imaginable. I mean, we painted an accent wall. We got a review. I mean, every single job you have to get a review on, because that's how you build up. And we did $100 jobs. We took any job we could do just to build that up. Right. But once you start getting built up, then it's one thing, but it takes a long time to get built up. So we had jumped off into Thumbtack, and we tried all of them, but we just felt that as far as lead service goes, with where we're at now, we don't have to market as hard as what we used to. Before, we were just hitting the streets every day. Now we don't have to do it as much.
Well, look, and that's something I've been talking about here and there lately, is I think a lot of people get in this business, have high expectations, and the reality is at the beginning, you've got to hustle your ass off.
Yeah.
And the nature of business is, over time, it gets easier and easier. You can put the same amount of effort in and get more and more results over time. But at the beginning, it's lopsided. You got to put in a shitload of effort to get little results, and then a lot of effort to get a little more, and then it starts to even out. But then it starts to get to a point where you start getting some leverage, which it sounds like where you're at now, where you're starting to build that leverage, where you can put the same effort in, but you're getting more and more and more results over time. So I think, that's a super valuable lesson, kind of see that. You mentioned that for a while you were doing all the work yourselves, and you were having trouble finding people to help out, which is, man, I hear that so much from people. Like, I can't find good help. What were the changes that you made that allowed you to start finding that help?
It's just, we kept plugging away. We still plug away because it seems like it's a revolving door sometimes. But we have some good crews right now that are really good, but we pay them a little bit more than what we should. If they get done in time, we give them a bonus. So there are certain little incentives that we give to people. We're on a kick right now where we buy all the materials for everybody and pay them a little bit more. And I'd rather do that, because we found out that just in our neck of the woods, people don't want to, painters don't want to come out of pocket for paint or supplies or materials or whatever. So we make sure that's taken care of for the most part. And people getting paid, we try to pay quickly. So that was another issue that we had too. And a lot of times, if people aren't getting paid at the end of the job or within a couple of days, they're going to leave. They're going to go somewhere else. Yeah. And from what we've seen is all the good painters are already working. So if you can find some good painters, and even if they haven't been painting for years, if they're good and they're dedicated, we'll take that. We'll go with that, and we'll kind of work with them and teach them how we do stuff and sculpt them in the way that we're doing these houses and stuff. But it is a challenge to find people, and we've gone through, Craigslist. We found some good guys off Craigslist. We've had people that moved here and then they've left. They had to move out of state or whatever. So you always will kind of change over a little bit on who you go through. But the most part is pay them what they're worth, because they will go someplace else and somebody else will pick them up. So if they're good, you want to hang on to them, treat them right, and give them some incentives.
Yeah. About that, like all the, a lot of the good painters have, are already working and stuff. What I've noticed is they are, number one, that's what part of what makes them good, is like when they're not working, they're good enough finding work, they're good communicators and all that. But what I also know is it's bad contractors out there. Yep. So even when the good painters are out there working for someone, it's only a matter of time before there's a tough job, and the way the contractor handles that tough job turns that painter off enough, or there's a gap in the schedule where that good painter needs to fill that gap. That's when I want to just be there. So we try to actually just keep it like an ever-present, presence, recruiting, so that we're always there when those good painters come around. And we've been able to like really scale up our workforce with great people, because I think they're almost always turning over. Mm-hmm. So you said some really good stuff about your market. So, Damon's in Phoenix, and in Phoenix, you've got like really cutthroat labor rates. There's people, people complain about getting underbid all over the country, but I think you run into that more in Phoenix than you do in a lot of places.
Yep.
And so you want to share a little bit about what you were doing and then what you start, that transition to stopping competing on price?
Well, we started out, and every time we would do a bid, we got outbeat every time, and it's frustrating because you're going from door to door, customer to customer, and you're not landing jobs. And we got all the time where we had a guy here, he could do it for this price. Can you guys match prices? And we would do that, and we find out that we're making such small margins, we're not getting anywhere. By the time you add up some of our CRM stuff that we're using every month, and our insurance and gas and fuel and whatever, Angie's List or any other lead source, we weren't making any profit. And we were getting a ton of jobs, but no profit. And we kind of had to step back a little bit and just realize that we're worth more than that. And we have the experience, so the experience wasn't the issue. It was being undercut. So finally, we got to a point where we said, okay, here's the deal. When a homeowner answers the door, we're licensed, we're bonded, we're insured, we live here. We've been doing this for so many years. We have an account here. Now we have testimonials. We have this. This is what we can do. And then you hand people information about your business or what you do, and you have to sell yourself at the door. You don't sell so much the paint. You have to sell yourself. If people like you, then there's no amount of money that they'll stop and to get their house painted. We could be twice as high as somebody else, but if they like us, they like us. And that's what we learned. And it took a while to learn that, because we're just out thinking, God, we're not getting jobs. What is going on with us? But finally, the key turning point to us was making sure that our license was in place and our bond and we're fully insured and that kind of stuff. So that was a turning point when we would knock on doors or talk to homeowners. It was like, well, are your guys licensed? Are they insured? Are you this? And then you have to educate people sometimes on how that process. Down here in Arizona, it's very, very difficult. It's very strict. So we have to educate people on that. But once we did that, it was like it just turned overnight. Like everything changed on us. It was a whole new thing. So that's kind of our main thing now. So when we go to a door, we hand out a lead pamphlet things, a folder about us. There's information about our business. We have a website. We have everything in place, and that helps us. And now with our website, people can go there and click on our Angie's List link and see our reviews. So little things like that, just selling yourself was the biggest thing for us.
About how much more did your prices increase? Like how much more were you bringing in per job? If you were used to be selling a job and doing it for $2,000, what are you now doing it for?
I think we're probably up around $1,500 a job now, maybe more per job. And a lot of it was per square footage rate. So we're probably up maybe 70 cents per square foot on certain jobs as well.
Okay. And so I'm just trying to get an idea percentage-wise. Like if you used to sell it for $2,000, now you'd sell it for $3,000?
Yeah, right around there, about $1,500 more.
So a 50% price increase, though. And see, the thing I think people don't realize too is it's not about winning every job. It's about winning jobs profitably. You can build a very wonderful business on a 30% sales rate. In fact, you can build a much better business selling 30% of your bids at a good margin than selling 70% of your bids at a shitty margin.
Yep.
I'd rather do one job and make more money on that one job than do two jobs, but make the same amount of money. I can scale my business way more with better margins.
Yep. And that's what took us a while to understand that. It was people were calling us for jobs. Yeah, we'll match jobs. We'll do this, And then at the end of the day, when we add up your fuel cost and your transportation and all your supply costs, whatever, you realize that your margins were 10% or 8%. You're making money, but you're not making the money that you could be making. You know what I mean? And you have to value yourself. You have to put a value on yourself. And that was what we didn't do that at the beginning. We just took everything we could possibly take.
Yeah, it's the difference between molding your business to the market versus molding the market to your business.
Right.
You got to keep figuring out, how do I make this work for what I need, not how do I just do whatever everybody's telling me to do. Let's just take some of the changes you made. So what were you said you got the course about a year and a half ago. I remember the message you sent me that seemed to help with some things. What were the main things you guys took away from that? What difference did it make?
Running everything as far as a system goes, because I think at one point we had everything just kind of jotted down on papers here and there. So we got organized. We ended up going with Cork CRM, which you talked about. We changed our contracts around a little bit to make them have the wording that they needed to have the wording. Started taking bigger deposits when we first did it. We were taking jobs with no deposits or low deposits, so we kind of changed all that around. And I think that the sales part of it was our biggest point, the production side of it, and the sales point, to where we could step back, look at the numbers, and say, okay, this is where we're at. This is how many more bids we need to have per week, and then this is what we need to do to convert these leads over. And we didn't do any of that. Like I said, we started out, we got a lead, we did the job, that was it. We just went from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. We didn't take the time to step back and see where we're at, where our projections were at. We didn't project anything at the beginning. Yeah. We just took jobs. So having a game plan, and every day you write down, hey, this is what I need to do, this, I'm going to project this out. The only thing that we haven't got to is to start hiring the production manager, because I enjoy doing that side of it. And so for me to do it, I can kind of see for myself where I'm going and the direction I'm going to, and down the road we'll get there. Yep. But for right now, that whole sales and production side of it, where we're at, where we need to be, and our goals was probably one of the biggest takeaways from the course.
Got it. So just getting everything, instead of just kind of 1 week at a time, one job at a time, you actually mapped everything out, got your numbers straight, made a game plan, made a path, and then what did that do for you, just like from a peace of mind, or like how do you feel about your business doing it that way, like just taking the time to actually map that out? Yeah. What does that do for you in terms of just your mindset?
It's a better way to go, because you know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, you don't know how you're going to get there. So it's kind of like having a ship with no captain. The boat's going to take off, but where's it going to go? So having a little bit of a direction where we're going is nice to know that, hey, this is where we're at. I can go out of town, open up the laptop, and know this is the jobs we got going on. This is what we have happening for the week. This is where we need to be. And for the most part, the numbers are dead on. They're not too far off. As long as you stick to your game plan and your numbers, and even if you lose a job here and there, you can still make that up. And I'm okay with losing a couple of jobs here and there to make it up. But you got to know where you're going. And for me, that was the easiest thing I could do, because it kind of puts your mind at ease a little bit,
Yeah, for sure, man. What were the noticeable changes in terms of just results from implementing the numbers and the goals and the tracking, as well as the sales systems and production systems?
For me, it pulled me off the job site. So when I was working every day and painting every day and prepping and doing this stuff, you lose focus of where you're at with all that, because you're not at home studying all that. The minute I could pull off, spend more time in my home office and focus on that, that's when your sales go up. And I said earlier about Angie's List, I got to a point where I would pull off, in about an hour a day, I would run Angie's List. I would upload pictures and upload stuff. And the minute I do that, it was a kind of a joke between my business partner and I. He goes, I can always tell when you're not out in the field, because we get more calls, we get more bids. So for us, it was the production went up, the numbers went up, bids went up. I mean, there was to a time where we were doing, 6 bids a day sometimes, and we couldn't keep up. So we got to a point where we could scale that up or down, but pulling off of the job site and doing that was what allowed me to do that.
And which part of it allowed you to pull off the job site?
Probably just running the numbers, running the sales side, getting the bids lined up, because I like to do the bids still. I like to get out there and kind of see what we're looking at. So I love doing bids. My business partner does bids too. But if I can get out there and do that, it's usually, if I sell that lead, I know that most likely I'm going to get a referral. So I can kind of work that sales niche a little bit to where I can line up a referral business.
Yep.
They kind of helped out.
No, that's great, man. I think, people underestimate the power of small changes. You can take that?
Yeah.
No worries, man. I just paused it. We're good. So I think people underestimate the impact of these tiny things. It's like, man, just mapping things out. It's like, oh, wow. Like, because when we're in this business, there are so many things to be busy with.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to just stay busy. And if you don't have those numbers mapped out, you'll just be busy. You'll stay plenty busy.
Yeah.
But once you have them mapped out, you're like, whoa, like we're behind on our numbers. I need to leave the job site. I got to go run some bids to keep the sales plan. It becomes your guide. It kind of tells you what to do. And it sounds like that's a big part of what you needed, was just that direction.
When we first started out, and even now, we run kind of two sides to the business. We run our retail side, where they're homeowners, they're going to pay the full retail, and then we run with property managers and stuff like that. And even on the property manager side or the construction side, we have a contractor reaches out to us, he needs a house painted, we'll paint it for him, but we'll split those with our subcontractors, and that's fine. We're still making money, but we're not making always as much money as what we could be making doing the retail side. So it's kind of divided up in that sense, but our subcontractors always get paid regardless. We may see a lower profit margin on some of these rental stuff that we do, but they're great fillers. They keep us busy. So, and that's something that we had to run. I have to kind of step back, look at, rental houses that are coming up that we're looking at, or even flip homes from other contractors. But when we do that, it's good filler work, but it's not top dollar. And sometimes I think what people do is they want to do only investor properties, and then their profit margins are down. And you just can't, it just doesn't work. They can't pay those numbers that you're used to getting. So you have to mix in a good lead source and get those other properties in there to bring up your numbers. And if you just work with investors all the time or property managers, you're not going to see the numbers that you want. You're not going to hit the numbers that you want to hit all the time.
Yeah, for sure, man.
That was what we fell into too.
Yeah, no, it's an easy trap to fall into, man. You got to have discipline, you got to have that discipline to know, to not chase money, not chase the easy stuff, but work smarter and go after the higher dollar stuff that might take a little time to get going. And it sounds like you've raised, before we got on this, you said you had started raising prices with some of those investors and property managers too, so that you have improved those margins there as well, which is just one more reason why it's so important to be tracking those numbers, so you don't, just pay yourself whatever's in the account, but you actually know, where am I making money, where am I not?
Right.
What are you most excited for with, just kind of the future and where you're headed now?
We're getting into more of, we've always been doing cabinet painting, but we have some new products that we're trying out with cabinet painting. And we're getting into a lot more bathtub refinishing, shower refinishing kits, things like that, countertops, things like that. So we're getting more into that side of it because the profit margins are through the roof. You spend less time doing it and it's better numbers. So we're starting to do more of that kind of stuff. And there's so many good products out there to use and try. So that's kind of what we're
doing. Cabinet painting?
Yeah, we're doing cabinet painting. Yeah, we're doing.
Is that what you're referring to as far as the profit margins being through the roof?
Yeah, cabinet painting, refinishing, tub refinishing, shower refinishing, all that kind of stuff is the profit margins are really good. The product cost versus time involved, it's just a lot higher numbers.
That's awesome, man. And I'm just, it's kind of a side thing. I'm just curious, was there things that you took from the Painting Business Pro course that really helped with the remodel side of the business?
I think just the number side. The number side is what always kicked our butts with trying to figure out where we're at with everything. But we don't do too much commercial painting because it's so deep and detailed. Yep. We'll paint restaurants and stuff like that, but we don't do it on a large scale, like painting Home Depots and all that kind of stuff. But the commercial side is okay, but we try to do more of the residential side just because it sticks with us a little bit better. Yeah. But I think with running the CRMs and running like we have a dedicated phone system now. So running all the little stuff that adds to your business is what helps us out with everything. So if I had to say anything, the sales things, the production manager stuff, all of that kind of stuff will play into anybody's business if they follow it. If they don't follow it, they're just going to run all over the place like what we did. There has to be a little bit of structure to find out who's in place and going from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and getting where you need to be. And getting to phase 3 is hard. I mean, it's just very, very difficult to do. Yeah. And we were at phase 1 for a long time and we were happy with that. But then you start adding in stuff, you have no choice but to go higher. So that's where our goal was. And
then you start finding all the new challenges that come along with that.
There's always new challenges.
No, that's awesome, man. So from somebody who's been in this, kind of construction and contracting game for 20 years, any other, advice or anything else you'd want to share and pass along?
I would say just don't sell yourself short. Be confident in what you do. Even if you're just starting out, know your product, know your information. We have painters customers ask us all the time about paint. Whether you're getting your paint through PPG or Sherwin-Williams or wherever you get your paint through, just know your product line. Know what you're capable of doing and knowing the material that you're talking about. That's the biggest thing. But don't sell yourself short. I mean, that was our biggest mistake. And I think for the first couple of years, we wasted time selling ourselves so short. So be confident in what you do and get your system set up, because if you're just doing it off some scratch paper and stuff, it'll be a problem. Just invest in some good software, some good bid stuff, get your contracts right, and make sure that you're solid with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can't until you get that. You can. I mean, you're clear now. Like, there's no scaling and growing a business until you start to get those things down.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, man. Well, cool, man. Well, I'm excited for you. You're starting to make those moves into the next phase. Sounds like.
Yeah. I appreciate all the help, man. Like the course definitely helped us out, and we still refer to it all the time. So it's something we always go back to and see what we need to do to upscale and go forward. So.
Well, I got more. I actually on that side of production, I got some updates coming this next couple weeks. You might have seen, but just actually some changes to growth. I'm going to be making a lot of changes to that growth course, which is kind of in line with. I don't know what your timeline is for it, but when you come around to like start bringing on a production manager, that's the stuff I'm going to start working on.
Nice.
More stuff there, because that's the most challenging part of growing this business, man, is the team. Because you're like you've got such a good thing going. You don't want to bring someone in that's going to screw things up, but you do want to grow. So you do need to bring people in to grow, but you also want to make sure you do it without like hurting your brand or, creating more problems and all that stuff. So that's the toughest part of this whole business to learn, man, is that team building side of things. But I'm going to be adding some stuff to that course
and that's something we'd like to get off into more too, is more the team building stuff and keeping everybody on the same page. And we try to do the best we can, but at the same time, it is hard to give up something you've built from nothing to get up there, and then you have to give that up and rely on somebody to do that. So that's a challenge for us, but we're working on it. We'll get there, and we're slowly getting. We have some nice crews lined up right now that do all of our painting, so we'll get there. It just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, and if there's any little suggestion I would give as you make that transition, is just if you do it really slow and thorough, it doesn't need to cause issues. Like the last person we hired was a sales rep. We went through 400 applicants to hire him. And, he sold 20 of his last 37 bids. He started like 8 weeks ago, and he's killing it. But we were very patient bringing that guy on. We were very thorough in training him. And so if you're really, really patient with bringing on a production manager, and then you just work side by side with them for a few months and just don't take any chances, don't try to grow too fast, that's really how you can alleviate that. You just kind of keep your hands on all of the dials as you're bringing those people on. And, it sounds like with where you're at, production's probably taken up half your time, maybe a little more even. So as you do bring that person on, once they're going, man, that really frees you up so much. Even if it takes 3 months, 6 months to get them really humming, that's the key. So I think slow and steady is the name of the game there, and just be patient.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, I got plenty of that, so I'm not too worried about that. But I just got to find the right people, and that's somebody who wants the long-termness of it and wants to do it and has a passion for it. And that's what we're looking for. We want people to enjoy this business because it's a fun business. It really is. But you make it fun. You make it the way you want it to run, So we have a good time with what we do, but we want to make sure that it runs smooth too. We've been through a lot, well, not all of them, but we've been through a lot of the hurdles and stuff. So it's kind of nice to get to the point where you can get those extra people in place that can kind of relieve you from doing so much at the time.
Awesome. All right, cool, man. Well, I'm going to end this here, but thanks for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it.